welcome to your reading. This is going to be your geoscope for the upcoming lunar eclipse in Capricorn. So let's get into your reading. I've had a little piece of quartz just clearing the energies, and let's find out what's culminating or closing out for you at this particular full moon cycle, this lunar eclipse in Capricorn. It's probably significant that this is the last lunar eclipse in the Cancer Capricorn series, and then we will be moving into more mutable energy come November, December. Now, you are Virgo, a mutable sign, so I suspect that the eclipses are going to have a lot more impact for you once that happens. You may already have noticed that at the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius that we had in June. And if you haven't watched my geoscope for that, then maybe just go back and have a look through the playlists and have a watch of that, because more of those themes are going to come up again in November and December. But for now, let's see what you're closing out, or what wants to come to illumination at this particular full moon. I should also say that full moon lunar eclipses should be seen in conjunction with the previous solar eclipse, because the two are usually a pair. So this is usually what we're clearing out or concluding, and then the solar eclipse is usually what we're beginning. So this is kind of making room for that new energy that's coming in, which will last for 6 months. So interesting. We start off with Rubeus. So going in, Virgo, you're feeling quite passionate about something. Now, this could be good passion, as in you're feeling pumped and motivated to, kind of start the second half of the year in a different way. Or it could be that you're feeling a bit angry, possibly a little bit OCD, because we do know that that is something that Virgos are kind of prone to. So let's find out more. Okay, so when it comes to home, family, and roots, you seem to be closing out a cycle here. This is the North Node, which is one of the nodes where eclipses happen. So, sorry, this is the South Node. I beg your pardon. So the South Node has to do with releasing and kind of endings. And for you, this somehow is tied to home, roots, and family. So it could be that you are thinking about moving, that you are wanting to relocate, for example. It could also be the end of a chapter when it comes to a particular family setup. Maybe you moving out of the family home, for example, for the first time. But certainly there's a chapter kind of closing. There are karmic contracts that are concluding when it comes to home, family, and roots. Interesting. So we've got your conjuncture, which is your planet and sign. This is Mercury in Virgo in the 7th house. Now, the 7th house has to do with significant partnerships, significant one-to-one relationships. So this is usually marriage, but it can also be financial arrangements that are long-term, such as, if you've got a business partner where you're kind of on equal terms, or it could be, a long-term consultative relationship that you have with a lawyer, or that kind of thing. But generally speaking, it tends to be committed or long-term partnerships where there is sort of equality between the two people. Now, conjuncture is all about marriage and collaboration. It's about coming together with others. So your mind seems to be very much on union. Now, given this passion that we've got in the 1st house, and the fact that the ascendant-descendant axis is linked, it's possible that you've got your eye on someone. You're very keen on coming together with somebody. Maybe you want to reunite with someone that you've been separated from, or you're just really keen to maybe take a relationship to the next level. Or conversely, this can sometimes also be the house of enemies or adversaries. So it could be that you're really, really focused on kind of outmaneuvering a competitor on some level. But anyway, we'll find out more in due course. Interesting. So this is a really interesting axis. Now in your 10th house, we've got Via. Via is all about forward movement. It's about a change of direction. It's about progression, flux, change, basically. And we've got this Cauda Draconis, which is also about change and endings in your 4th house. So there does seem to be a kind of a forward progression from the 4th to the 10th, where you are moving away from old energy or cycles or situations, and you're wanting to sort of kind of explore past as new. Now, 10th house is usually career, but it can also be about your future plans and goals. So it does seem as though you're kind of tired of where you find yourself, and you're keen for a bit of adventure or a change when it comes to either your career or perhaps where you're based, because Via can sometimes be about travel. You know, this is the geomantic figure that means road or path. So it could be that you're keen to perhaps move or relocate, perhaps for work. But we'll find out more. I'm just going to do the conversions and I'll be back with you shortly. Hi Virgo, welcome back. As you can see, I've done all the conversions and popped all the geomantic figures into the respective houses. So let's get into reading a bit further. So when it comes to the eclipse itself, we're talking about the sun and the moon on opposite sides of the earth. So at this particular lunar eclipse, we will have the sun in Cancer in your 11th house of social connections, friendships, and groups. And the moon will be in your 5th house, which is the house of children, creativity, passion, and joy. So let's start with those houses. So the moon essentially will be in Capricorn. So this is actually the opposite place in the zodiac where it feels at home. So this is quite uncomfortable energy for the moon. And that's worth bearing in mind. So sometimes that, you know, for me, it equates very strongly with this idea of the North Node, of situations where we may not feel that comfortable because they're unfamiliar to us. In other words, I kind of feel as though emotionally at this particular full moon, you are being pushed out of your comfort zone. And I think that what is kind of driving this is a need for freedom, a need for adventure. And of course, with freedom and adventure does come a certain degree of insecurity, the unknown, and basically being pushed out of your comfort zone. So I think it's interesting that we've got Via, which is the moon in Cancer, in your 5th house, which is where the moon is going to be at this particular eclipse. And I think what it's saying, if we look and we see that we've got Via as the outcome of your reading and as your 10th house, kind of your goal aspiration, that you really are kind of keen for more freedom, for more adventure. So I kind of feel as though this explains a little bit why you've come to the end of a cycle when it comes to what's familiar. In other words, home, family, roots, and, you know, your kind of where you grew up, or what you knew from a young child. That there is a strong kind of calling of adventure in, you know, that's going to sort of become, you're going to become aware of at this particular full moon lunar eclipse. On the other side, we've got the sun in Cancer, which is going to be in your 11th house. So interestingly, the sun will be in the same position that Mercury was at during the solstice solar eclipse. So in other words, your planetary ruler Mercury will be was sort of at 14 degrees of Cancer at the last lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, and now the sun will be there. So I think it's really highlighting this particular degree for you, and this is quite an interesting degree actually, because it means that the sun will be making a conjunction to Sirius and to Canopus. Now, interestingly, Canopus forms part of a larger constellation called the Ship, the Argo, and this is the keel or the rudder of that ship. Canopus forms part of this kind of sub-constellation, which I see as being about way showing and sort of adventuring, so navigation. So I think it's interesting that we've got all this this kind of energy that's constellating for you about traveling. And of course, the moon in Cancer is very associated with sea journeys. So I kind of feel as though this whole kind of eclipse is going to awaken within you a kind of restless feeling that you want to sort of leave behind the familiar and move into sort of new uncharted territory, basically. So, but what's interesting about it is that this uncharted territory may also involve new new ways of communing or collaborating with others. And so often that is the case with travel. We meet new people. We kind of encounter new cultures which have different ways of doing things. And I think it's interesting that we've got this conjunctio in both your 7th house and your 12th house. So that says to me that you're almost kind of learning a new way of collaborating or communing with other people. And that is what travel is so good at teaching us. So that's really positive energy. And it's interesting that we've got Capricornus, which is the north node, so it's the opposite to the south node in your 8th house here. So this seems to be pointing to part of this new direction that you want to go in is definitely shared experiences with significant others that perhaps open you up to learning new things. And the reason I say that is because your 3rd and your 9th house both have the same geomantic figure in it, which is a missio. Now, these two houses they're quite mercurial, actually. The 3rd house is about ideas, communication, media, politics, and, our kind of logical mind. And then the 9th house is about the higher forms of learning. So it's about philosophy, it's higher education, it's beliefs, all that kind of thing. And it's also the wisdom that we learn through experience. Now, these houses are also associated with travel. So the 3rd house is kind of local travel. It's travel by car or within your area, basically. Whereas the 9th house is longer trips. So this tends to be overseas travel. Now, both of these geomantic figures are about kind of a sense of time passing you by, of kind of like stagnant energy almost, or of just sort of feeling as though something is missing. And so I kind of feel as though this again emphasizes the lack of adventure that you've had, possibly during lockdown. Maybe it's sort of really restricted your ability to sort of travel around, move around, have new experiences, discover new things. And interestingly, at this particular full moon, the moon itself will be making a trine to Uranus, which is in Taurus. So this is your 9th house. And Uranus is all about positive changes, particularly when you've got a positive aspect between the moon and Uranus. So this is kind of positive internal shifts. Uranus makes us open to the new. It makes us want to experience different things. And so I kind of feel as though, this may awaken in you a restlessness to perhaps learn more about foreign cultures, to kind of expand your mind either through study or through travel. So I really think that, again, this is emphasizing foreign travel, foreign relations, foreign cultures, exploring, expanding the mind. So it can be physical travel, but it can also be travel in the mind, opening your mind. So yes, very interesting how these themes are all, kind of interlinked. But definitely, if we look at your 6th house, which is kind of your everyday schedule, your everyday routine, there's Khase, which is quite restrictive energy. So again, this is sort of emphasizing this kind of dissatisfaction or this feeling of being hemmed in or claustrophobic when it comes to your everyday humdrum. You're tired of the everyday humdrum. You're tired of what's familiar. You're keen to sort of move forward to adventure, new adventures, that kind of thing. So I think that at this particular lunar eclipse, you're going to be kind of becoming very aware of maybe where you have played it safe, all too often, and where you maybe haven't extended yourself, in the past, because Cancer energy is very much about playing it safe. Capricorn itself is also a little bit cautious. And so I kind of think that you want to break out of that. And I think it's interesting that as I say, we're coming to the end of the cycle of eclipses in Cancer and Capricorn. So I really feel as though you're ready to move into that mutable energy. You're tired of playing it safe, and you want to sort of break free and have an adventure. And this seems to be a very good thing, Virgo, because if we look at the two judges here, the two witnesses, we've got Fortuna Major and Fortuna Minor. Now, both represent the sun in Leo. So Leo season may be when you kind of get this opportunity to sort of move out into the world and to have some adventures. But both of them are very, very auspicious figures. Fortuna Major is about success and kind of victory in the world, and recognition, whereas Fortuna Minor is about support and kind of getting help from either, spirit guides, higher ups, mentors, people that are in a position to help you, people that are, perhaps in a more elevated position to you. So I kind of feel as though if you get really clear about the fact that this is what you want to do, you want to sort of move forward, you want to explore new things, then I think that you'll be surprised at what kind of rushes in to offer you aid or support in actually making that happen. So what you might find is that during the 2 weeks that follow the lunar eclipse, during the waning moon cycle, you really kind of get clear on what it is that you want to leave behind. And then once that cycle is finished, you then move into this new energy, which is kind of very focused on the new things that were starting at the solar eclipse, and you move into that kind of energy of fresh beginnings. And I do think that, as I say, that if you ask for help and if you look outside of your usual support network, you may be surprised at people that are willing to assist you, new people, or kind of new situations that are willing to come together and work with you in order to sort of realize your dreams of kind of travel, or of certainly of progression and sort of exploring new territory. Also, I should point out that you've got this very positive geomantic figure in your second house. Second house is about money. So I don't think worry about not being able to afford this particular adventure. I do think that, if you put out the intention, the money will follow. And here I think it's also worth pointing out that at this eclipse, you're going to be having Jupiter and Pluto also in this kind of area of your chart. So this is Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn, and they will be coming fresh off their conjunction to each other on the 30th of June. So that energy is very much about an internal reset, a shift, a big shift that I think is you're going to feel at this lunar eclipse. You're going to start to feel that optimism kind of building, and that sort of very strong desire to cast off the old and the familiar, during the 2 weeks that follow, so that you have no doubt in your mind that you want to sort of move in a new direction come the new moon in Leo. And that's why I think that we've got this emphasis here on Leo season. I think once you move out of this energy, and out of, which is kind of during Cancer season, and get to Leo season, I think things will start to materialize in the 3D world. But it's important to set your intentions and to kind of plant those seeds. So very, very positive, Virgo. I'm really excited for you. Do let me know down in the comments if this has resonated, and what kind of happens going forward. If you're enjoying these geoscopes, do hit the like and the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future forecasts that I do. But I'm wishing you all the best for the upcoming lunar eclipse, and I'll catch you again in a couple of weeks for my next forecast.